Hey everybody, today we are going to get into identifying similes and metaphors. So they're very similar, but let's just go over some quick differences before we jump into any examples. So similes are the comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind, and they often use the terminology of like or as to make that comparison. Metaphors, on the other hand, are a word or phrase that's used to describe objects or actions that are not literally applicable. So we'll get into what that means through the examples, but basically a metaphor is almost like stating something as fact, even if it is not truly feasible. All right, so which sentence uses a simile? Her laughter was a bird's song, or her laughter was like a bird's song. So let's look at this first one. Her laughter was a bird's song. This states this comparison as fact. Literally speaking, her laughter was not a bird's song, but this figure of speech is saying it was in a sense of comparison. So this first one's actually going to be a metaphor, and now this second one is a simile. Her laughter was like a bird's song. So this comparison compares laughter with bird's song, and it makes that comparison with the term like. So we know that this second one is a simile. All right, so for our next example, does the sentence use a simile or a metaphor? The joking boys and girls are silly clowns. So here we have joking boys and girls, and they're being compared to silly clowns. But the key difference here is that we're looking at how they're compared. We're told that the joking boys and girls are silly clowns. So this is saying, phrasing it as fact. So this is going to be a metaphor. If we wanted to make this a simile, we could insert like here. And if we said the joking boys and girls are like silly clowns, that would turn this metaphor into a simile. All right, now let's look at this sentence and determine if it uses a simile or metaphor. The football soared through the air like a rocket. Okay, so let's identify what is being compared here. We have football and rocket. So we're told the football soared through the air like a rocket. So right off the bat, we see that we have like in our sentence, and that should be a clear giveaway that this is a simile and not a metaphor. All right, for this example, we have to identify which sentence uses a simile. The wave was a towering wall rising from the sea, versus the wave rose from the sea like a towering wall. So right off the bat, we see the word like in the second one, and you can use that to identify it as a simile. And our first sentence, so the second one is our simile, because the use of like, whereas the first sentence states it as the wave was a towering wall, even though we know that it was not actually a towering wall. All right, which sentence here uses a metaphor? The ripe tomatoes were small red balloons versus the ripe tomatoes were like small red balloons. So we know that like is usually a indicator of a simile, so it can't be this one. So let's look at the first sentence. The ripe tomatoes were small red balloons. This is making the comparison that these tomatoes looked like small red balloons when in fact they probably were not actually small red balloons. So stating it as fact, even though it's not actually the reality of the situation, makes this our metaphor. And I believe that is all we have for today. I hope that this helped clear up some of the differences between similes and metaphors.